Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today we're taking a look at gaming news. This is February 5th through the 11th. This is coming out on Tuesday. I know it's a little late. I've had some issues with my vehicle. I had to take it to the shop and get that done, and I'll get some stuff checked out. And so luckily that's all done. My car's okay. It was about a $220 repair bill for some stuff, which was good. Cheaper than I was expecting. But yeah, man, things have just been busy. I've also been working too through the whole weekend. So yeah, this is coming out Tuesday. And what are we going to be talking about? Well, we're going to be having an update on PalWorld, on how that's doing, and also with a little bit of my experience and what I think of it so far. We're also going to be talking about live service not going away. We got some more data on that. Going to be talking about Suicide Squad. It's officially released. It's out now. People have had some kind of previews of it. We also had some early access, some people sharing that. We're also going to be taking a look at Skull and Bones Open Beta. That was the 8th through the 11th. We'll be talking about that, just my experience. I was not able to stream that, unfortunately, and so I just have a small video talking about my thoughts and comparing from a closed beta last year to this year, and how much has changed and how much hasn't. We'll also be talking about Resident Evil 4 sale numbers, and also just kind of how we have this trend of remasters and remakes now. And it's kind of surprising how many we've had, and already how many we have coming later this year. We're also going to be talking about Fntastic, the gaming studio. They're the ones that made The Day Before. And we got some more information on actually how it was to work for Fntastic, and it is brutal, folks. You'll want to stick around for that one. We're also going to be talking about some new regulations for Apple and how they're going to be making some policy changes themselves to make sure that they're still making some extra money. We're also going to be talking about Xbox exclusives coming to PlayStation and or Nintendo. Now, there's a whole bunch of stuff swirling around about this. Some of it is kind of confirmed, some of it's data mined, but it's a whole bunch of hearsay so far of who said, she said, whatever, and we don't have any confirmation yet. All we have is something from Phil Spencer last week saying that this week there was going to be an announcement. So that's it, kind of a business update. They also too did have their earnings call. I listened to that. It was a little over an hour. And there wasn't much in there either about the future of Xbox. So we'll have to see what this is, and I'll keep you guys updated on that. Also, too, something about The Last of Us again. And so it looks like we might keep getting a part 3. So thanks for tuning in, folks. You can always find me at GamingGarbage22 at YouTube, and also over at Twitch at Don't Tread on Thee. So let's go ahead and get into the news. So PalWorld, we know this game has been blowing up. It's huge. It's on PC and it's on Xbox. The only way to access it right now is through the preview if you basically have Steam or Game Pass. And so far, with some updated numbers, we know they've been spending almost $500,000 in the first month on servers. They've also gotten some help from Microsoft, Xbox, to help probably facilitate monetarily some of that. And also the Xbox has been sending over at least some of their, engineers to help with making sure that the GPU usage and the memory usage is as efficient as it can be to support the numbers. But one thing I really, really like about this is that the CEO has made it clear from the beginning that the servers will not go down. They will stay running. Now, it has been buggy. There has been some crash issues in the very beginning, like within the first couple of weeks. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but I haven't had a crash since. I've only had one. And it's also a preview, and also this game got very, very popular very, very quickly. But I love that the CEO's focus is the experience to the players and trying to create the best that he can with the small company that he has. Now, since this is on Game Pass, we know too that Pocket Pair probably has some type of a contract where Xbox cut a check to say, hey, thank you, these are going to be the terms and whatever, and you're going to get paid right up front for having your game on Game Pass. We don't know how long the licensing deal is, but with this being as big as it has been, it is possible that Microsoft might actually look into buying PalWorld, Because let's look into some of the other numbers. So we know that the peak on Steam was 2.1 million on Steam charts, and that was just within like the first week of PalWorld's being on. We know too, an updated number from VGI, that there's 14 million players so far that have purchased on Steam. 14 million, that's crazy. And then there's still no updated number yet, but so far still 7 million that are playing on Xbox Game Pass. And so that's incredible to me. The fact that there is such a huge amount of people. I mean, that's 21 million players, and this number just continues to go up, and that's like $30 a pop. And so again, this is all kind of just early access, like a preview game, right? It's not the full thing. You can certainly tell that when you're playing, but the fact that the servers run better and that the game actually runs better than some of the AAA titles is pretty hilarious, because you know that's not what you would expect. So yeah, they are spending buco bucks on keeping everything running. Fluff, go lay down. It's pretty amazing. And so, you know, doing some numbers, we're looking at about, you know, $400 million in sales. That's insane, and that's not including the check that was cut from Microsoft. We don't know how much that was. Maybe a few million, maybe about $1 million, maybe. The studio, again, it is small, but that is pretty incredible. They're making some crazy amount of money. We still know that there's a investigation officially through Nintendo. I was not able to find anything confirmed that there will be legal action taken. Just a lot of hearsay again, and possibilities and rumors, and that's basically it so far. And is the game still buggy? Oh, sure it is. Okay, sure it is. I think there's been one update so far, and the servers run. It's not perfect, definitely with multiplayer. People are still complaining about multiplayer being a problem and it crashing and stuff. But we know that Microsoft is helping with dedicated servers for the Steam Edition. So far, not on Game Pass for Xbox, but I'm sure that's coming. Because again, you have millions also on Xbox. And so, yeah, with the dedicated servers, Microsoft is getting pretty deep into actually helping out Pocket Pair with PalWorld, because yeah, this could be huge money, and with how much it's blowing up, I mean, yeah, it's understandable why. You get a ton of liberty in the game. You can make certain decisions that you want to do. There's a lot of exploration in the game. There's boss battles in the game. There's kind of caves or dungeons as well. There's over 100 different animals to collect and kind of hunt for and try to capture. There's a day-night cycle. There's also survival aspects. There's an entire like base building function and a crafting system. I mean, the game is wonderful. I mean, it's truly what we've wanted with like a Pokemon game, and now we have it through PalWorld. So, yeah, I don't think this game is going away anytime soon. So, yeah, it's been very, very good. Let's see, next, live service isn't going away anytime soon. So there was a survey conducted of about 537 studios, and 95% of them said that they're working on a live service game or plan on making one in the future. That means at least the concept is there, and that there's, you know, eventually rubber's going to meet the road, and they're going to start making this live service game. And that's kind of depressing, honestly, because we know that live service has not created really good quality, and a lot of games that the quality's actually gotten worse, and even these AAA studios and publishers can't really create a good game. I mean, we've had failures with Battlefield 2042. The last three or so, well, Cold War was pretty fun, but the last couple iterations that we had with, like, Call of Duty, for example, it was just kind of a problem. And, you know, there was 37% less sales, or maybe it was 34, but yeah, 30+% less sales for Modern Warfare 3 than for Modern Warfare 2, and that's over a span of just 12 months. So we know that they're losing money. We know, too, that Destiny, even though it was this huge, massive thing for basically a decade, it's basically done with how they've been having issues with some of their servers. Also, too, with the grindingness and just the monetization has just been atrocious. It's basically pushed the casual players out of the entire game, and all that's left is just the hardcore fans that are now absolutely getting screwed over because their favorite game's over. And pretty much we all know it. And so even Destiny 2 is just a mess. They've also, Sony has also delayed 6 other live service games, and we know that those haven't been going well. Also, February of last year, we had quite a few games that were also no longer going to be supported. And so live service has not gone over very well, but again, a ton of studios still see the potential, probably. Not all of them are going to make money, but some of them at least still see the potential of making money. And, this survey is according to the IGDA, or no, not the survey, excuse me, that was by somebody else, but the IGDA, International Game Development Association or agency, I forget exactly. But yeah, there's about 25,000 game studios right now. So, 500 plus is a small piece, but still, when you have over 500 where 95% are saying they're going to make a live service game, that is not something that makes me happy for the future. Because probably over the next, 4 to 5 years, we're going to get a bunch of these. And that's at least 500 games. Now, this could be for mobile. This could also be for, specific exclusives for Sony or Nintendo or Xbox or, third party abroad, whatever. Or maybe just on Steam or Epic Store. We don't know all of those details. But still, yeah, live service is not going away. Definitely had some bumps in the road, but folks, we need to keep the pressure on. We need to just continue to say no to this stuff. And again, a few bucks here, a few bucks there, or whatever. But I mean, Counter-Strike Go, for example, there are still people spending, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars on a skin for a gun in a digital game. I mean, it just sounds crazy. At least with like Magic the Gathering or some other board game or paper RPG books and whatever. I mean, at least you have something physically there in your hand. Even the physical game or disc anyway, even with just half of the data on it, is still in some shape or form physical and real and has value. But I mean, this focus of live service of skins and little charms you can't even see while you're running around anyway, I think people are starting to catch on, because we've also had some studios say, no, we're not going to go that route. So we had BioWare, okay? The next Dragon Age game initially did have a live service. We also know that Anthem didn't go very well either. That was a horrible train wreck. And so there was an aspect of live service, we don't know how much, probably some type of a looter shooter, right? Kind of an idea. But we know there was some type of live service with their next game from BioWare, and then they had an announcement, I think last year or the year before, where they're like, nope, we're not going to do this. We're going to take it out. We're just going to make a game that's focused on story and characters. We're going to have a great time. And people are excited about that. We also had an announcement last year from Sega saying, well, we're not totally out of it, but for right now, we're going to stay out of kind of the live service aspect. Now, they haven't done that entirely with some of their games, but for the most part, they're not interested in making this massive push like Sony has with making, having 12 different titles of live service that they want to push out, along with like EA, basically almost all EA stuff now is live service in some shape or form or another. Square Enix is trying it as well, along with Capcom, and we got Ubisoft. I mean, there's a bunch of them still doing this. And so, but we also have Larian Studios too that says no. With Baldur's Gate 3, we're just going to make the game, we're going to make the story, we're going to make the game that people want to have, they want to buy. And yeah, that game did incredibly well. Same too with Hogwarts Legacy. That was another good one. Didn't have live service aspects, actually sold very, very well. Same with Spider-Man 2, same with Spider-Man Miles Morales. Again, these were great games that sold very, very well, along with God of War. Okay, Starfield also was not a live service game. That sold very, very well, even though I think it was still okay-ish, or, it was mixed in reviews. Some people loved it, hated it, some people in the middle. But still, it sold very, very well. And these live service, eventually, I mean, it's like we're catching on, finally. And so just keep it up, folks. We are having an impact. I think that's clear enough, because when they're canceling games, when they're, removing live service aspects from other games, it doesn't mean that they're going away yet. But if they are not profitable, folks, they won't make them. And so, yeah, we just need to keep on. I certainly am. Again, spend a few bucks here and there, but gosh, the same game every freaking year. It's the same game, selling you less, and having you pay more. That's what live service is. So moving on, next is Suicide Squad. This has a horrible score. So looking at Meta Critic, this has a 60 out of the official critics, which still isn't very good. Even, I can't remember if it was Game Ranks or IGN, or I think it was IGN, said that, yeah, they just weren't very impressed with it. As a preview, we also got to see so far now the users, it's been out long enough, the users are saying that, yeah, it's a 37 out of 100 or a 3.7 out of 10. And that's horrible. That is flipping horrific. Like, this is not a good game. This is actually a worse score than what Redfall was. I mean, that's pretty bad, because, yeah, we didn't realize really how bad Redfall was until we actually kind of started playing it for, about a month or so. And Lion and I played it too, and yeah, that score did steadily drop, I'm pretty sure, below 3.7, but it wasn't much lower than that. So yeah, this is, a game that functions well, is somewhat fun to play with certain aspects and combat and exploration and stuff like that. But yeah, it's still not scoring well, and this is horrible. A lot of users have been posting stuff with early access, as they got it 3 days early, and the biggest one is server issues. So some people, as soon as they logged in, congratulations, you beat the game, and that was it. They couldn't really do anything outside of that. Others couldn't even log in, as this is a game that has to be constantly hooked up to the internet, sending data, whatever, and people just absolutely hate this. And then too, people hated with who was in the game, and how they decided to do things with combat, with other things, and some of the characters too didn't seem to really play their appropriate part, like we know from the cartoons and the comics and other games. Their character just didn't quite fit right. And then too, also how some of them died in the game. It's just like, wow, okay, you have these iconic characters. What the frick are you doing? Are you kidding me? And then, too, the gameplay, for the most part, was fairly boring and repetitive. That's what a lot of users were saying, too. And that there's really not a lot changing in combat-wise between all 4 different characters of the Suicide Squad, and that it all just kind of feels the same, flows the same. There's maybe some different, features or abilities or whatever, but you also have to play some of these characters even if you don't want to, so that you can just keep them leveled up with everyone else in the squad, so that they can kind of, quote, pull their own weight as a NPC while you're combating whoever you're fighting at the time. So yeah, Steam charts, this is absolutely horrible. When I checked this, it was 5,000 players a couple of days ago. Now it's sitting at about 3,000 players on Steam. 24-hour all-time peak was 13,000 players. And then talking with Lion, he is a huge DC fan, and he doesn't even want to touch this game. He's willing to touch Gotham Knights. He did buy that game. We do plan to, go through this game, which I really don't want to do that, but hey, whatever, I love you, brother. But, oh my word. Yeah, he doesn't even want to play this himself. So, well, yeah, when you got huge DC fans that don't even want to touch this, this is just horrible. So I think Suicide Squad is going to be an absolute failure. It looks like it's well on its way. And guess, hey, it's probably going to be pretty heavily discounted before too long. Probably got to wait a couple more months, and then we're going to see some crazy discount numbers, like 30 or 50% off. Because that's what seems to happen when the games just absolutely fail. I love looking through the Xbox store and be like, oh, this one failed, like Need for Speed Unbound. Frick, yeah, Redfall was another one. I'm trying to think of some others. Gollum didn't really go on sale too much, which was kind of stupid. That was a really bad one last year. But generally speaking, the games get actually quite cheap within the first, 3 months, if they're not doing very good. So, and then if they do well, or pretty good, all you got to do is wait, 9 months or 12 months, and they're still going to be cheaper anyway, which is kind of insane. Yeah, just wait for sales, folks. If you can wait for a little bit, you're going to save that money. which we all need to do right now, probably, myself included. Next is the Skull and Bones Open Beta. So the Open Beta was from the 8th through the 11th. This was 40 gigs on my Xbox. It was actually quite big. You got a certain level that you could work through, and then you could just kind of play or whatever. So they did kind of like open up a good section of the game that you can explore and work with. In doing the testing, going through the open beta, as I said before, I was frustrated that I couldn't actually stream the game, so I just kind of had to talk about it, which is of course not as engaging. But, testing it is that it didn't change much from the actual closed beta that I had in August of 23. And this was actually quite frustrating because there was a lot of us that actually poured some pretty good reviews. And again, Ubisoft sucks. They haven't really made a banger of a game in quite some time. They're trying hard enough, that's for sure. Valhalla, in my opinion, was kind of like one of the last good games that they made, which I think that was 2019. And so it's been years. They've struggled too in their studio. They've also canceled a lot of projects, and so, again, Skull and Bones, this is just a brutal of a game because this had 7 delays, multiple closed betas. They changed their mind last minute to make the last closed beta an open beta, and it's still a piece of junk. Like, this is not the game that we want. And so, while I was playing, we had bugged animations, we had lost frames, we had a contract that glitched out that I was not able to complete, literally within, the second or third contract of the game, and all I had to do was buy cannonballs, and I couldn't do it because I was supposed to work for the contract itself, some kind of a blueprint, and then purchase, but I was unable to do that because something happened out of order and it glitched out the contract. Also, the game crashed and froze, and when that happened, well, I decided I was basically done with the open beta. I'd seen everything I needed to see, and I uninstalled the open beta. I will not be buying the game, folks. I suggest you don't either. At least wait for a sale. The tutorial was better. You get to start right in the beginning, just this onslaught of ships that you get to shoot through and whatever, and that was actually really, really fun and a good change. But again, we go through the tutorial, which thankfully, too, also didn't have to take as long, but still it was very boring, very just grindy, just not very fun, but at least they did make it shorter. That was definitely an improvement as well. And then you could get to the actual real game, the real map, a heck of a lot faster. And they also, too, fleshed out a little bit more of the story with this one, which was nice. But again, with all of the issues, it's like this game is not ready for release. This is literally coming out in a week. And, it's not ready. Which is awful. And then, too, the type of pirate game that we wanted was like Black Flag or Rogue or even Valhalla, with moving up the rivers and raiding the churches and ports and whatever else, raiding the towns. We wanted that kind of an open world to be able to swashbuckle with our crew, and we can't do that. We're stuck on our ship. We have to have loading screens in between going to islands or getting to different certain ports, and you can't really go everywhere you want to go unless you're on your ship. But another thing that's frustrating is resource gathering. So you either kind of just go over cargo quickly. That's okay. That's pretty arcadey, but it's simple, right? We had that with Black Flag and Rogue. But the other thing is, if you actually want to gather resources from the land, again, you just huddle your boat up there to the edge and then just play a minigame to get your stuff. It's just very disengaging. And there's no exploration on the land, which is incredibly frustrating. Again, the ship combat is cool. It is fun. It honestly is fun. And again, very reminiscent of Black Flag, like it should be. But Ubisoft just totally missed the mark on this. And again, it's you've had 7 years. Over, actually. I think this initially was supposed to be DLC for Black Flag, and so it's been in development since 2013, and so we're at 2024 now, so we've had 11 years and 7 delays, and there's been so many change of directors, and it's just been a total mess, and I'm sure Ubisoft will never make a mistake like this again, with taking money from a government to basically produce a game. because they're obligated to release this. And I think they just got to a point, it's like, look, it's as good as it's going to get. We need to put our time and resources and energy into something else that's actually going to bring cash flow. Let's just shove this thing out here and get it off our chest and move on to the next thing. And I think that's exactly what they're doing. So yeah, please wait for a sale, folks. It's not worth it. Same with, excuse me, same with Suicide Squad 2. Next is Resident Evil 4. So we finally got some sales numbers. They've had 6 million copies sold. Congratulations to them. They've done very, very well. Playing through Resident Evil 2 Remake, man, that one's been a fun one, except for where I'm at right now. Literally everything I busted my chops for, and resource management and everything, it all totally flew out the window as I'm playing someone else now. And I just feel like I got screwed, and I kind of really don't want to finish it, because I basically got 4 zombies to kill, and I don't have anything to be able to do that. And so, yeah, I keep dying all the time. It's fun. But yeah, Resident Evil 4, you know, the remake did very, very well, and we knew it would. We knew it would definitely sell a few million of copies. But yeah, 6 million, that's really good. One thing that does kind of suck is that now, you know, we have a gold edition coming out. This will include separate ways, story DLC, and then the cosmetics, guns, and music, all from the deluxe edition. And it's like they're reselling, you know, they're putting more or all of the content in a edition now and then selling you that after it's already been out since last year. And I kind of feel like that's pretty scummy. You know, Capcom shouldn't be doing that. But again, it's just another way to try to get more money. They also did this with maybe about a month or so, or 3 weeks after launch, where you could, you know, basically pay to win some aspects of the game, including weapons and attachments and stuff like that. You know, and they added that as kind of a live service aspect to the game, for players that wanted to pay for it. And I'm sure some people did, which, again, it's your guys' money. You can do what you want with it. But yeah, here we just have a now gold edition that's coming that was not available for purchase when it initially released. And that is just scummy. That is really just scummy. They're really trying to milk this cow as much as they got. But Resident Evil is going to totally dry up if they're not careful. Because, yeah, they actually need to, you know, continue to make some content, make some new games, continue on with the story, right? And this is kind of what gets me into, you know, the remake idea. Like, remakes and remasters are not a bad idea, but we've had so many. And some of them have been good, and some of them have been terrible. And so, here's a list. So, I worked on doing the math, and in 2017 we had 25 remasters, okay, remakes. In 2018 we had 27. In 2019 we had 28. Okay, it's kind of slowly going up. In 2020 we had 45. In 2021 we had 39. In 2022 we had 22. So heading back down, 2023 we actually had 12 of those, and in 2024 we have 5 so far, which is Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3, Dark Forces, Last of Us Part 2 already came out, and then we could have Metal Gear Solid Delta, excuse me, but I think that's going to be more 2025, and also Silent Hill 2 is probably going to be 2025 or 2026. But again, it's like, remasters aren't a bad idea or a bad thing. I think they're great. You know, it's a way to reintroduce content or games that we love to the younger generation or to the next generation. But again, when you're doing it so much, I mean, we've had, well, let's see, looking at the math, we've almost had 100 here since COVID. And these are just kind of the bigger ones. These aren't like the smaller ones that have come out. These are just kind of the bigger remasters and remakes, and some of them are across all consoles, and some of them are just for PC or just as an exclusive for somebody else. And again, they're not bad, but I just feel like we're getting too many, because I'm wanting new IPs. I'm wanting more additions to the story or to the IP, so that they can expand on the series or include new characters or whatever. But it's like they're not really willing to do that level of work. They're wanting to make a quick buck and just continue on and making as much money as they can. And I think it's scummy too how some of these remasters, they still want you to pay $70. It's like, no. I'm not going to pay $70 for a game I already played. Even if you remake it, it's like we shouldn't necessarily do that. Now, I am guilty of buying Dead Space, and that was $70. And was it worth the $70? Probably should have rather been 50 or 60. Or at least have the $70 include all of the extra DLC cosmetic stuff they're going to put in there. That would have been fine. It did run very, very good. It got a very good score. But again, it's like I don't feel like a remake should be that much. It's too much for most of us. Now, what I do love is like we're going to get a quote remaster of Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3, which is basically PlayStation 1 graphics to PlayStation 2 graphics. And maybe even in some aspects PlayStation 3, we'll have to see. That's literally happening tomorrow. And so I'm excited to test it out. But yeah, Tomb Raider, we're getting it as a bundle. It's $30 for 3 games. And I can't wait to show them to you. They're going to be a blast. I'm sure I'm going to be frustrated and maybe cursing a bit too, but it's going to be fun. We're also getting Dark Forces later this month, which is a really old PlayStation 1 game. And you kind of think of the older Dooms. And I'm excited to get that too. Also Bolt Gun. Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun. That's another one that plays just like it. And that's another fun one. And so, yeah, remasters have their place, but boy, it's time to get some new IPs. And not ones like Skull and Bones or freaking Suicide Squad. We want new IPs like PalWorld, like Baldur's Gate 3. Those are the ones that we want. Elden Ring DLC, man, I can't wait. It's coming at some point. Believe me, you guys will know when I know, because I'm going to share it as quick as I can. So moving on. Next is Fntastic is now the worst dev to work for. So we know that, the game did not launch very good. The servers were a mess. People couldn't get in. They took the game off after 4 days. And a couple of channels on YouTube have done some work. Game2 and GameStar, they've done kind of a deep dive into talking with ex-employees and even a volunteer that worked on the day before. And it's actually quite interesting, and we're getting a really good picture now of why this game was such a mess. So we had constant changes to the game. They wanted to make the game bright. And instead it's it's a zombie apocalypse game. It should kind of have dark tones. Oh, okay, well, let's do that. They wanted to make it an MMO, and then it turned into an extraction shooter, and then it turned into whatever the frick it was at the end there, which really didn't seem to do any of those. Next, they also had total overhauls to the character creation multiple times, because GTA Online came out, and they're like, hey, we need to make it like that. And then Hogwarts Legacy and Baldur's Gate 3. And so the devs are saying, man, we have to constantly change and adjust and add things, and it's just like, this is crazy. So they're having to do multiple aspects of the game over multiple times. And man, what a waste of time, of energy, and resources. And I would freaking quit, man. If I didn't need the money right away or couldn't think I could work for somebody else, I would freaking quit. That'd be, oh my gosh. That's just awful. We also there's also a lot of developers that were coming from the eastern part of the world, kind of like the satellite states of the USSR, like Kazakhstan or Armenia, and they weren't necessarily paid. So this is where kind of these volunteers are coming through, and basically it was like, hey, this game is the most wish-listed game on Steam. Why don't you work for us? You'll get the experience. You'll help make the game, and basically you'll have your name in the credits, and then you can say when the game comes out and makes a mass ton of money, hey, guess what? I can go get another job and say, look, I worked on the game, and hey, hire me. And they probably would, but again, the game was just an absolute mess. And now those people have put all of that time and effort in, all of the issues, never getting paid for their work, and then they don't have job prospects either. And so I just feel really bad for those folks. We also found out too that the devs were also fined if they turned in poor work. And of course, the brothers got to decide who that was, or what type of poor work was poor work. And so, yeah, also getting fined. I can't even believe that. So one, you're changing aspects of the game and constantly changing and adjusting stuff all the time, and then you're not paying them, and then you're freaking fining them. Like, how the heck is that even legal? So don't forget, too, Fntastic said that they blamed the YouTubers and content creators for the hate campaign, and that's why the game did poorly. Are you serious? The day before did poorly because they ran the game poorly. And this isn't even talking about all of the hints and teasers and everything of like, look, this could be a Resident Evil game, this could be a Silent Hill game, this could be a Metal Gear Solid game, Kojima could be working on this. Like, all of the crap that they shoved out there and were trying to get people hyped up. It's like, and the reason so many people jumped on to the day before and basically crashed the servers is because, hey, is this game even real? Is this just some vaporware? Is this actually a real game? So it did actually launch in early access, but for $40. And again, they like to reiterate, hey, we didn't even get any of that money. Everybody got it back. But I also feel bad for the publisher. Oh my word, like, they weren't doing their homework either. Yeah, what a horrible thing. Last thing, folks, is remember that Fntastic has changed their name. They are now called 8 Points, and it's important to keep an eye on games that are coming out now to see if it's from 8 Points or not, because it's the same folks. And the day before was definitely a scam, in my opinion. They knew what they were doing. Before they even shut the servers off, pretty much, they already had the name change, and they already had another game that they were working on. At least Game Mill, up front, kind of the type of games that they make. Okay, they're not going to be very good. They're also going to be maybe sometimes fairly cheap. But at least you can kind of see what they're going at. Fntastic is just on a whole new freaking level. And I hope eventually those brothers go to jail, because they're just scamming people. So next we're going to be talking about Apple. So Apple had some regulations basically through the UK and the EU saying that their Apple Store or Marketplace was unfair. And I'm getting into how this is related to gaming. And so now that they have new regulations, they have to allow access to third-party stores on their devices. They also have to allow side loading, which I'm not entirely sure what that is, but they have to allow side loading on their phones and iPads, along with other changes to make sure that things are fair for the market and that they're competitive. They don't just have a monopoly. Because, yeah, they're charging 30% across the board for every developer that actually makes an app for them and puts it on their store, which is crazy. That's like getting that's like getting taxed 30% just from the federal government when you're starting out. And we don't even get that, folks. You get taxed maybe around 20% when you start out because you're not making enough money to get taxed more into the next brackets. But you still got state tax and city tax and whatever. So choose where you live, folks. That's pretty important. But now with these changes that Apple has to abide by, Apple has made some new policies to where now they're adding a 17% commission fee for devs that are making apps for their store, or making third-party stores on their platform. And once they get to 1 million downloads on Apple, the devs have to pay like €0.50 per download. And boy, that really starts to add up. And there's been a few companies like Spotify and Microsoft that are like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, you're literally, you're angry you're not going to be making as much money before, and, you got to keep your $1 trillion valuation of a company, keep that name tag, and now you're making a new policy where you're going to be making even more money than you were before. And so it's like, this isn't going to get any better. We'll have to see what devs want to do with this, because it doesn't look like the policies are going to change because they're Apple. They got a ton of authority, and this is not just an Apple problem, folks. Okay, Microsoft does this, Sony does this. Everybody that's a big company basically is guilty of doing this, okay? Doing some practices that are an issue with monopolization, and there should be accountability, and I try to cover all of that here on the channel as much as I can. But yeah, this is getting kind of crazy. And so, yeah, I mean, what are some of these companies going to do? Are they going to change things? And two, this reminds me of Unity. Making everything retroactive of all of the past Unity engines that they've had. And hey, when you make over a certain amount in sales, well, now you got to pony up and pay us a certain amount for every download or sale after that, which some devs were like, dude, we're totally gonna go broke. Like, you can't do this. And Unity walked back most of those policies, but still there are policies in place where people that use Unity, the new or current Unity engine, have to actually pay after a certain amount, and just because, hey, your game was successful, pay me more. Thank you very much. And I think that's pretty scammy. Okay, that's just like the tax bracket system in the United States. Hey, just because you made more and you're more successful, don't just pay more numerically, pay more as a percentage. Because F you, give me money. That's basically what it feels like. And Unity did that, and now Apple is currently working on doing the same thing. And I don't think this is going to stop. I mean, we already had Sony. They also got fined too for their store because of how they were monopolizing the use of sales of games through their store. And they got fined on that, and basically that was partly the same principle. It's like, look, you're not allowing competition, you're not allowing things to be fair, you're closing off your ecosystem and just reaping all of the money that you can. And so, yeah, the accountability is good, folks, and maybe sometimes we don't like it in our lives either, but it's important to have that. Next is Xbox exclusives. Are they coming to PlayStation? So this has been quite a big thing. There were some leaks on this. There's also been a lot of YouTubers and content creators pumping on this. There's been a lot of speculation. There's been a lot of theories. So I'm not going to go over too much here, but basically the idea is like Hi-Fi Rush, Starfield, and Indiana Jones. Are they coming to PlayStation and or Nintendo? There will be an official announcement soon. That was tweeted by Phil Spencer, and that's supposed to be happening this week. So it didn't happen on Monday. We're now looking at Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So we are going to get something. We do know that there is going to be an announcement on the 15th that is going to be related with Nintendo. And so Nintendo's having like their, showcase of Game Direct or Developer Direct kind of a thing to show what's coming out for them this year. And so I wonder if we're going to hear anything on that, or if we're just going to have an official announcement from Microsoft. But this means, too, that not all of this is just inaccurate or just speculation, that there's actually some truth to this. If Microsoft is going to give a business update about the changing of their business, and they already had their earnings call, it was not in their earnings call. I listened to that myself. But I don't want to get too much into the speculation. I want to actually wait for this to come out and to actually hear what it is, and you'll hear about it here on the channel next week when we do gaming news. And then, too, I also have some State of Gamings that I want to go over between Xbox and between PlayStation, because I think this is going to change the gaming space. But at this point, I'm just waiting for this announcement to come out this week, and then I'll start doing those State of Gamings. But I have tons of sheets written out for it already. This has been brewing up for probably the last month or maybe couple of months. And yeah, there's a ton of data. So it's going to be a long one, folks. I'm going to split it up in two parts to make it a little easier to digest. But yeah, stay tuned for those. That'll be a fun one. So we'll have to see what happens. Right now it looks like Xbox, the speculation is that the console war is over. Basically, all exclusives are going over to PlayStation. I don't think that's going to be the case. But yeah, we are going to have an announcement sometime this week, so stay tuned for that. Next, just a short little side note here. Star Wars Episode 1 is coming back to theaters. Now, we've had some awful, in my opinion, Star Wars movies. And they really are screwing up Indiana Jones, Marvel, Star Wars. I mean, just pick any brand that they have at this point, and Disney is just mucking it up. So it would be nice to actually see a fairly good Star Wars movie coming to theaters, and this is because of the 25-year anniversary. And this is going to be coming starting on May 3rd. And honestly, buy early. Like, as soon as you can, buy your tickets at your local theater or whatever. Apparently, this is going to be coming abroad for the United States, maybe even the world. I didn't necessarily look into that, but this is going to be pretty big. And I think Disney knows that they need to do something to actually make money. Because when you start adding up all of the losses from their last earning call that they just had, they're losing over $100 billion. Ouch. I mean, that is freaking painful. So the lack of subscriptions that they're having, they did have an increase, but they also had a price increase too. So the revenue went up, but their subscriptions are going down. People too are just hating their shows and a lot of their movies, and they're delaying, like Snow White, for example, because of some stuff there. There's some controversy around the Deadpool 3 movie, which they're not calling Deadpool 3 anymore. They're calling it Deadpool versus Wolverine. And so I think Disney knows they need to do something. And regardless of your thoughts on Disney, it would be pretty sweet to see a good Star Wars movie in the theater. And I didn't get to see it on the big screen, but I'm definitely going to be freaking there. And, oh, bummer. I was hoping Lion would be able to make it, but not quite. That sucks. The other thing, too, is if you are local, man, let's go see it together. I am not kidding. I live over in Oregon, in the Valley, and so, yeah, if you want to meet up or whatever, you can go ahead and leave me a private message or a whisper on Twitch at Don't Tread on Thee. You can message me there. But yeah, I'm totally going to see Star Wars Episode 1. I'm so excited. If my family can't make it, bummer. I'm going. I am looking forward to this. Last little piece of news, folks, is The Last of Us Part 3 is now teased by Neil Druckmann. And so The Last of Us has been a very successful franchise. The show, too, has also been very successful. So now we have Season 2 coming. And so far, Neil has said that Part 3 is just a concept. It's not a full story yet. But it is technically going to be separate from what we know with The Last of Us. So probably a different character arc or whatever. And then we know that Naughty Dog is going to milk The Last of Us as long as they can. And we see this with a lot of other developers and publishers too. It's like, look, let's keep Destiny going forever. Let's keep The Last of Us going forever. Let's keep Fallout going. Let's keep Halo going. Let's keep Assassin's Creed going. Let's keep Rainbow Six Siege going on for 10 years or whatever. I mean, at some point, folks, like, again, we need to have new content coming. Otherwise, oh my gosh, we're just not going to have good content. We're just not going to have good games. People are basically super frustrated, a lot of them, with Madden, with NFL, with NHL, with, football club. A lot of the sports games are just basically rehash stuff. They change a few things. They run worse sometimes. They graphically even look worse sometimes. And then they monetize the absolutely living hell out of it, just like NBA 2K23. And good golly, man. I mean, at some point, yeah, we just need actually new stuff. Into the monetization with, like, Apex. Like, the developers were like, hey, the publishers were saying, hey, Apex, we're going to run that for a 10-year game. It's like, well, good luck. The only one I think that can really live that long and has proven itself already is Fortnite. But even Fortnite is losing players as they had to bring back the original map just to get people to come back and play. And boy, did they ever. I mean, like 40 million players, that's pretty flippin' wild. But still, live service has a shelf life. It can't run forever. And so again, are these studios, eventually I think the big dogs are going to figure it out too late. Hey, you can't milk the same cow because it's dead. Okay, it's absolutely bloated, maggot-infested flesh in the mud, and you've totally killed something. And I think they're going to have a hard time starting new IPs or getting things off the ground again after a while when we have these smaller studios or even indie games making stuff like PalWorld, like Elden Ring, or like Sekiro or Hogwarts Legacy and just absolutely hitting it out of the park. And I think that's what we're starting to see, and I think we'll continue to see that. So, yeah, keep battening down the hatches, man. Keep tightening it, folks. Join my club. Absolutely. Again, I've been fighting this since a while. And yeah, do I still play Warzone? Sure. Do I still play Call of Duty and some of the others? Yeah, I do. But again, I don't I don't spend a penny. I'd rather buy something else. So anyway, that's all I got for you, folks. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Looks like winter is slowly, at least around here anyway, in Oregon, winter is slowly kind of disappearing. We're getting some nicer weather. It's still cold out there, which is kind of tough. But yeah, you know, spring is around the horizon. Just hang on. And two, if you're financially having trouble, you're struggling with work or finding jobs or whatever, like I was talking about in my PalWorld late night talk, boy, keep trying. Don't quit, okay? You know, I got more and more friends and family that are having trouble and struggling, and just hang on. Just keep going. You know, eventually you'll hit a break. And, you know, life doesn't mean that it has to be perfect or that, you know, a good life is going well. A good life is satisfying. And that just means that you put time and effort into the right things to get some type of investment or enjoyment or satisfaction back. And if it's easy to, you know, if it's easy to come, it's easy to go to. So invest in the relationships, folks. Invest in people. Even though people can be frustrating, boy, don't I know. But that's really where the enjoyment is relationships. It's not in the stuff or the money or the cars or whatever. All of that is just a way to connect with people. That's how we should see it. And with that, folks, hopefully you guys are doing well. Hang in there, and I'll see you guys on the next one.